Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Craig, the Natural Medic, doing a special audio podcast live from Torrey, Utah, as I record this. And just sitting out here by a fire, looking at the stars, and it's just a lovely place. Hey, but today I got to visit a park I have not been to before, and that is called Capitol Reef National Park. And Capitol Reef National Park is one of the big 5 national parks in Utah. Probably the most inaccessible and remote one out of the 5, so the crowds are a little better. Did go to Zion Wednesday. I did Angel's Landing. Been wanting to do that for a long time. And ever since I found out about it. And there's a world of difference between Zion and Capitol Reef. And I was thinking about that for just an audio podcast, which is what I'm doing right now. And that world of difference really is just the crowds. Like, Zion is a much more accessible park. It's not too terribly far off of Interstate 15 from St. George. And you really can't drive in Zion, at least during the busy season. You can ride a shuttle bus, which is fine, but that kind of is a testament to the fact that there's a lot of people trying to drive in the park. And that really means the park is probably overloved, overcrowded. And probably explains why they do permits still, even after COVID's over with, for places like Angel's Landing. If you want to go climb it, or hike it, however you want to phrase it, you need a permit. And you can't just get a permit. You have to do the permit lottery thing. And that sometimes can be a challenge. I tried it over several months ago, whenever the window was open to do that. And I failed. Unfortunately, that week, they were doing maintenance. It was my birthday week, April the 4th. Consequently, I wasn't even available because I took a new job then. But back to the original idea, I tried to do the lottery for that, and because they were doing maintenance the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, it left me only one day in my potential trip to request that permit. And as you can guess, I didn't have much success. I didn't get one. But my friend over here in Utah had a permit. And it just so happened that my week off from my new job, I was able to come with them and their group and go up Angel's Landing. And we successfully made the charge up the top and made it back down in one piece. It was certainly not your average run-of-the-mill hike. Probably not the toughest hike I've ever done in my life, but it certainly ranks up there. YouTube video coming in the next... after I get through all my other content that I'm going to put out. I've got so much content right now left over from when I was in South Dakota and coming down through Kansas, Oklahoma. And now I've got New Mexico footage and Utah footage and all that kind of stuff. I would very much like to get all that stuff out as soon as I can, but it's been delayed because of my job. Working 6/10s a week doesn't give you a whole lot of time, and not including your commute time, to get the things done that you need to get done, as far as editing content and posting it and that kind of stuff. But I digress. But anyway, I was just thinking about, just even here in the state of Utah, the differences between Zion and Capitol Reef. Capitol Reef is a lot more of a chill type vibe there, whereas Zion is a lot more... everybody's there, because my guess is because it's a lot more accessible. Like I said, it's a good 3-hour plus drive to get to, or at least nearby, Capitol Reef from the St. George area. And yeah, that's deal number one. So it's a little bit harder to get over here distance wise, and you're not going down the interstate. You're going through some U.S. highways and some Utah state highways to get here. But also, I think the way that Zion was designed in the early 1900s, they didn't think about the automobile and how that was going to impact visitation. And therefore, we, the visitor, have to make accommodations to take a shuttle bus or whatever it takes to get to the sites that we want. Not really a big deal. We Americans like the freedom of our vehicles. And so it's a little bit different to not be able to get in there. But it certainly does help with the congestion and, the rides that we took as a group on the shuttle bus. We started off at the visitor center area, caught a shuttle bus and caught it to the grotto, and then went up the trail to Angel's Landing and came back out. Voila, there we are. But I think it adds to the length of the day because you have to wait for a bus, get on the bus, ride the bus to the number of stops, and get off where you need to get off. So it does add some time. But on the other hand, like I said, it does help with some of the congestion and keeping it, to a manageable level, in my opinion. And that's good. Whereas Capitol Reef still had some visitation. I think significantly less, though, than a place like Zion. And again, due to its accessibility and the fact that it's a different type of park in a lot of ways. In its journey to national park hood, for lack of a better term, took a different route. Became a national monument, Capitol Reef that is, in the 1930s. There were still people living in the park in a community called either Fruta or Frutia, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's a Mormon community, which is very unique because they were able to, because of the abundant water that was around them, they were able to be self-sufficient for a long time, probably about 60 or so years. No one lives there now, but they didn't have any electricity, they didn't have even a telephone, and they were able to make these beautiful orchards, which you can still see today in the park. And during the appropriate times, you can actually sample and or pick whatever you want from the different fruit trees that they have. Some are apples, some are apricots, peaches, cherries, among other things. And they're just really beautiful, and it's just an odd thing to see this kind of oasis of green in the middle of what we call a desert, because there's these high rock walls all around that area of the park, and there's some historic homes, there's some different deals in there that to make it truly unique. And just observing the differences between the two parks was pretty fascinating to me in my brain. If you know anything about how my brain works, my brain is interesting. But in essence, it was just, even though they're in the same state and the same kind of roughly area, they're both in southern Utah. They're vastly different because of the way that they were set up, the way that they were protecting the way this park was set up to protect the particular environments that it does. In the case of Capitol Reef, it's set up to protect this 100-mile-long unique geological feature known as the Water Pocket Fold that stretches over 100 feet linear distance north to south. So the park is very long and skinny from north to south. I don't believe, according to what the ranger said today at the ranger talk that we listened to on geology, there's no more than about 6 feet of width at any point on the park. That's like the maximum. 6 miles, 6 miles of width. That's east to west on the park, whereas the distance from the top of the park to the bottom of the park is over 100 miles. So it's definitely a different setup for sure. And just scratched the surface barely today, doing 2 different hikes. One of the hikes was in the Capitol Gorge area, which has a bunch of registers of settlers that came through, primarily Mormon settlers that came through. They kind of scratched their name in the side of the cliff, some rather eloquently, some not so. But it's interesting to see that. And prior to them, the visitors that were there, or people that were living in there or in the area or visit the area, whatever, are Native Americans. There were Native Americans that were the ancestors of today's Hopi and Zuni and Paiute tribes. They were called the Fremont people. They left their mark on the canyon by leaving petroglyphs, that are the difference being pictographs are made with some kind of a medium like an animal fat or plant material, like kind of an ink type thing, whereas petroglyphs are actually chipped out of the rock. So you see those intermixed with the pioneer signatures and some other things down there. Also got to go up to Cassidy Arch, which is named after the outlaw Butch Cassidy, who's from the area. His boyhood home, actually, I passed on the way from St. George to here, which is pretty interesting. And it was pretty amazing. I actually stood on top of that thing and walked on it, and it wasn't nearly as scary as I thought it would be. But going up there was definitely, over the short mileage, it was only a little bit under 2 miles to get up to the top where the arch was. But it only took, under 2 miles to get there. So the elevation change from the bottom of the wash to the arch itself was significant. But what a beautiful view, though. But just with those two parks in mind, and just here in Utah, think about the diversity of parks that we are lucky enough to have in this country. Whether they be national parks or state parks, or we could even delve into national forests or BLM properties or whatever. And when I say BLM, Bureau of Land Management, just to be clear. And there's just a wide diversity of landscapes and things that people want to protect for one reason or another that we have throughout our beautiful land of the United States of America. And I particularly feel like I'm pretty blessed that I can travel and see some of these places. And I encourage you to get out there and see some of those places yourself. We have so many parks and forests and beautiful places in our nation, and we should enjoy those. And I just wanted to share those thoughts with you while I'm sitting here by a campfire right outside of Capitol Reef National Park here in Utah. I do hope that you enjoy the podcast and that maybe it brought something special to you. I hope you have a good day, evening, afternoon, night, wherever you're listening to this, and whatever time you're enjoying it. So I'll talk to you later. See you on the trail.